Well, according to CNN, the biggest threat to free speech that we've seen in recent weeks is not the devastating assassination of Charlie Kirk on September 10, but it's that Jimmy Kimmel was taken off air for a few nights for deliberately lying about the murder. Now, CNN has put on an hour-long special labelled "No Laughing Matter, Free Speech Under Attack."
Jimmy Kimmel's suspension from ABC sparked an immediate and heated debate over the First Amendment and censorship. To be clear, television networks are legally allowed to suspend or cancel any shows they want, and they have a long history of doing so when it comes to controversies involving their stars or cast members. But Kimmel's suspension was different because it involved a mix of politics, the president, and the power of his administration when it comes to its critics. In this next hour, CNN's Jake Tapper walks us through how the decision to suspend Kimmel unfolded, the role of the FCC, ABC's affiliate stations, and its parent company, Disney. And he speaks to leading First Amendment scholars about the direction we're heading when it comes to free speech.
Yet the left seriously believe that Jimmy Kimmel was the real victim of September 10. And it hasn't taken his audience long to switch right off from Jimmy Kimmel Live. His show has already seen a 64% drop in the ratings since his pathetic return, where he offered no apology and pretended to cry. Now, Rosie O'Donnell, she's spoken to MSNBC host Nicole Wallace, and she's still promoting her anti-Trump agenda. She has even admitted that her case of TDS is so bad that her therapist can't even help her out.
He's not stopped now. We have lost our country. And I don't know, Nicole, how it is that some people cannot see it. My therapist said, "Why are you so upset?" And I said to her, "Why are you not?"
Yeah. Yeah, I have that conversation too, because the gaslighting that I think you're alluding to, if you're a thoughtful, informed person, you do stop and say, well, maybe it is me.
Unbearable. Now, how is ex-CNN host Don Lemon going? Well, he's just delivered his most unhinged rant yet, aimed at white men.
White men, something is broken. Something is cracked deep inside when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence. Are you listening to me? I hope I'm saying it loud enough for the people in the back.
Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Co-Chair. CJ Pearson, thank you so much for joining us once again. Let's just look at the media that we've been seeing in the last week. We've had an hour-long CNN special on what should have been about Charlie Kirk, but it was instead about Jimmy Kimmel and how he's the victim. We've heard from Rosie O'Donnell telling MSNBC's Nicole Wallace that her therapist is struggling to help her with her insane levels of hate, for the president. And according to Don Lemon, well, white men are just the worst, and they are the only group causing violence. CJ, can I get your reaction?
Well, it's interesting to me that Don Lemon has such a problem with white men, considering he goes home to bed with one every single night, right? And so that's my thing about some of these people that's so interesting, is that they actually never really believe what they say. I don't think Rosie O'Donnell believes he says. Rosie O'Donnell once said that she would leave America if President Trump became president. And here she is still, of course, giving us her incredible presence here. And you look at, these other folks, right? Jimmy Kimmel, his situation, they said that President Trump was being a dictator by removing him from the air. Now, I don't know how dictatorships work. I'm blessed to live in the United States of America, where I don't live in one. But last time I checked, if we lived in a dictatorship, you wouldn't be able to go back on the air whenever you pleased, just at your own whim, right? And so I think, again, it goes to show these people have no idea what they're talking about. They're absolutely just completely trying to manipulate the American people with their emotions. And I don't think the American people are buying it. I think that we're completely past that. And it's for good reason. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I'm just looking at all of those clips, I think no wonder no one watches the mainstream media anymore. Let's talk about Pete Hegseth. He has declared war on fat
generals. He told service members to resign if they don't like his message of eliminating woke diversity measures. In a speech before hundreds of commanders in Virginia, he told troops that the military's sole mission is preparing for war and preparing to win. Listen to this.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
He also said we became the woke department, but not anymore. No more identity months, no more DEI officers, no more climate change worship, no more division, distraction, or gender delusions. We are done with that. And to our enemies, FAFO. I mean, I think it's absolutely brilliant. What did you make of it?
You know, I think it was an incredible speech from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. You know, it's one of which that actually made me want to go on a run. And I'm not even an admiral, right? And so I think, you know, what he exactly encouraged today is exactly what our troops need to hear, that we are going to practice the peace through strength, ideals that have made America safe, that have kept America safe. And I think the reiteration of it is exactly what he said. It's FAFO. And I think that our enemies ought to figure that out very quickly. And the only way they're going to figure that out is if we don't treat our military as some type of social experiment, but as a war-fighting machine. And it's exactly what Pete Hegseth is retooling our military to exactly be.
But it's interesting, the woke hosts of The View are genuinely devastated to hear that the Secretary of War does not want fat troops. They're having almost a cry about it. Let's just take a listen to this.
I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat. Yeah. I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
CJ, so Sunny Hostin cannot understand why Pete Hegseth would want to toughen the physical standards. So these hosts, I think they want the US military, the troops to be overweight, to not be at peak fitness levels if they have to fight.
These people are delusional. I think every single word, they prove that to be true. Yeah. The idea that it's some radical right-wing notion to want our military troops to be fit, to be strong, to be, mentally tough is absolutely absurd in every which way. And so for them to act like as if this was some divisive speech, no, it's divisive for the people that have no business leading our troops, no business being among the top brass. And so if they disagree with it, as Secretary of War Hegseth said, they ought to resign and do the American people a favor.
Now, CJ, it's been 3 weeks since Charlie Kirk was murdered in the most horrific way imaginable, and Democrat Ilhan Omar just can't find it in her heart to say anything respectful about the brilliant Charlie Kirk. Listen to this.
I have nothing to apologize for. It is a tragedy that Charlie Kirk was killed in that way. I feel for his widow and his children. They will have to live with that for the rest of their lives. But there is no legacy to honor. It was a legacy filled with bigotry, hatred, and white supremacy. Mm-hmm. And as a Black woman and as a Muslim in this country, I refuse to join the chorus that changes the history of what is on the record from this man.
CJ, she says there's no legacy to honour, again calling him a white supremacist. Can I get your thoughts?
It's absolutely disgusting. In the same way that she can't find any nice words to say about Charlie Kirk, she oftentimes can't find any nice words to say about America, because that's exactly the type of person who she is. And she reminds us of that every single day. You know, she wants to talk about the legacy of Charlie Kirk. I'll talk about the legacy of Charlie Kirk. This was a man who prided his entire life on free speech, the exchange of ideas, regardless of whether or not you agreed with him or not. He would go into the lion's den, he would go into the belly of the beast and simply state his case, and he would encourage you. He would invite you to challenge him. And you know what? That's what makes America America. The idea that he was some white supremacist because he was anti-DEI, anti-affirmative action, maybe that's your own bigotry peeking through. Because here's the deal. I don't need DEI to be successful. I've never needed affirmative action to thrive in this nation. And so the idea that somehow, some way, Charlie Kirk is some big and avowed racist because he didn't support those things is absolutely disgusting. And Ilhan Omar, well, you know, I can't even begin to say just how disgusting, you know, she is in her rhetoric and how she speaks about this country, how she speaks about, you know, incredible luminaries like Charlie Kirk. But I think your audience probably knows a lot about that. And so I'll leave it to them.
Oh, 100%. Well said, CJ. Let's talk about the legacy that is living on, the legacy of Charlie Kirk. There is a generation of Charlie Kirks right now living more boldly, more truthfully because of Charlie Kirk and the amazing person that he was and everything that he did. And right now we're seeing thousands of people, they're returning to church. They are also wearing the Freedom T-shirt. So thousands of people at Penn State football put on Charlie Kirk's Freedom T-shirt at Saturday night's game against Oregon, and the footage and photos of the students wearing the shirts, I should say, went absolutely viral around social media. And looking at this, it's just one example of how many, many people right around America are honouring his legacy, CJ.
You're exactly right. I mean, there's a revival happening in this country right now where you have people who were once afraid to stand on their values, to stand up for their beliefs, and to proudly proclaim that they were conservative and proud to be an American are now saying, I'm no longer going to censor myself. I'm no longer going to hide in the shadows. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to stand in my truth. And I'm so glad to see it because that's exactly what Charlie would have wanted. We can no longer be the silent majority in this country. We see where that has gotten us. We have to be the loudest held majority that's going to fight for our country, fight for our values, and do everything that we can to advance them because America is not great because of people that sat on the sidelines. America is great because people that forced themselves to the front lines and said that we will not allow America to be diluted. We will not allow America to be dissipated. And I got to say, I am so excited about what the future holds because Charlie's legacy is not just alive, but it's alive and well.
Absolutely. Now, Fox News has obtained note cards that Joe Biden used to use during live events. Now, they include 5 different palm cards. And just looking at what's on them, it's so telling about Joe Biden's state. He had bios and photo reminders of people, including Hillary Clinton. He needed a photo reminder of Hillary Clinton and her bio. The short note detailed that she was the Secretary of State in the Obama-Biden administration, in case Joe Biden forgot. I mean, no wonder Donald Trump put up a photo of the auto pen at the White House instead of a photograph of Joe Biden because he had no idea what was going on, CJ.
Yeah, you're exactly right, which is why I'm so excited to have a president who actually does know what's going on, and we've reaped the benefits of it. We see an America that's now leading from the front, an America that is guided by peace through strength, not weakness through inaction. And President Trump has reimagined this country in a way in which I think only he could. And so, you know, I'm not surprised by this breaking news. I'm not surprised by this developing story. I think we're only kind of at the beginning of what we're going to learn about just how much Joe Biden didn't know. But I think there ought to be an investigation into who actually benefited from this president's, the former president's, you know, lack of knowledge about what was actually going on in his White House, because it actually kind of is on the brink of illegal action, right? You know, the idea that any staffer could just use an auto pen to direct presidential actions, I think it warrants an investigation, and I think it should be a very swift one.
Just finally, woke celebrity Ariana Grande reposted an anti-Trump message. She shared this podcast host, Matt Bernstein's Instagram post that blasted voters who cast their ballots for Donald Trump instead of Kamala Harris in 2024. Now, the White House has issued a fiery response in a statement saying, "Save your tears, Ariana, because President Trump's actions ended Joe Biden's inflation crisis and are bringing in trillions in new investments. I mean, CJ, look at this and it's just no surprise. There are so many Hollywood celebrities that just, or woke celebrities, I should say, that are still trying to push an anti-Trump message on social media and actually seem to want, they actually wish that Kamala Harris was president right now. And I think her latest media tour has just reminded everyone how grateful we are that she did not get elected.
No, you're exactly right. And Ariana Grande, in her post asked the question, have your lives gotten better? Hell yes, it has, Ariana. I think many people would agree with that here in America. And so here's the deal about these Hollywood folks who are so out of touch, these elitists. The American people rejected you on November 5th, 2024, and we have no intention of going back, none at all. And so Ariana Grande, maybe she should get back in the studio and out of the pulpit, because no one wants to hear a single thing she has to say about political issues here in this country.
CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for joining us.